Power, prestige, glory. But what if behind every golden crown, there was a trail of blood? What if the kings we were told to admire were the monsters our ancestors feared? Today, power is debated. Back then, it was taken. By blade, by fear, by divine decree. We imagine noble kings with shining armor, but behind castle walls, they committed acts darker than fiction. These aren't fairy tales. These are the true stories of medieval kings. He was born to rule, but ruled by love. Edward II didn't hide his passion. Not for war, not for glory, but for a man named Piers Gaveston. Their bond scandalized the English court. While barons marched to war, the king arranged jewels and titles for his favorite. His wife, Isabella of France, watched her influence fade, replaced by whispers, insults, and exile. Betrayed and humiliated, she made her move. With her lover, Roger Mortimer, she led an invasion of England. The once untouchable king was captured, deposed, imprisoned, and finally, murdered. They say it involved a red-hot poker, a punishment as cruel as it was symbolic. Was it justice or revenge? In Edward's fall, we glimpse the danger of love, where power demands cold calculation. They called him Lackland, but it wasn't land he lacked. It was mercy. King John ruled with iron and ice. He extorted gold from nobles, locked opponents in dungeons, and starved children to death. When he captured his own nephew Arthur of Brittany, a threat to the throne, the boy vanished. His barons had enough. In 1215, they forced him to sign a document that would change the world, Magna Carta. But John never intended to keep his word. He broke the deal, igniting civil war. He died miserably, sick and abandoned, while England slipped from his grasp. Tyrants fall not because they lose strength, but because their cruelty makes others strong enough to resist. He was born into majesty, but ruled by madness. Charles VI believed he was made of glass. He wrapped himself in iron rods to prevent shattering. Once, in a fit of delusion, he attacked his own knights, nearly killing them all. Other times, he forgot he was king, or that his wife and children existed. France, already torn by war, now had a madman on the throne. Rival factions, his brother and cousin, fought in his name, plunging the kingdom into bloodshed. In the vacuum of his mind, France fell into chaos. Power, it seems, is no cure for the soul, and even kings can break without ever falling. He was only 14 when they came for him. Thousands of peasants, fed up with war, taxes, and corruption. They demanded change. He promised peace. Young King Richard II stood unshaken and met with rebel leader Wat Tyler. But days later, Tyler was dead, stabbed mid-meeting. Richard's promises, gone with him. The king ordered mass executions. Villages burned. A boy became a monarch, and in doing so, became a tyrant. Not all betrayal wears a scowl. Sometimes it smiles, young and regal while sharpening a blade. Henry IV was the Holy Roman Emperor, God's chosen ruler. But when he tried to control church appointments, Pope Gregory VII excommunicated him. No kingdom, no allies, no crown. Henry crossed the Alps in winter, barefoot, to the fortress of Canossa. For 3 days, he waited in the snow begging forgiveness. When the doors opened, it wasn't a reunion. It was submission. The man who ruled armies couldn't defy a priest. And in that moment, the church reminded every king, you may wear the crown, but we hold the keys to heaven. He was called Son of the Dragon, but he became something far worse. Vlad III of Wallachia ruled through terror. He impaled enemies by the thousands, leaving their bodies rotting on stakes for miles. Ottomans fled at the sight. Merchants abandoned cities. Even his own people feared to whisper his name. But behind the horror was strategy. Terror was his diplomacy. He held the kingdom not through trust, but through the certainty of pain. And the legend of Dracula began not in myth, but in history. Before a crown ever touched a king's head, it had already been written in the stars, or so they believed. In the medieval world, the divine right of kings wasn't a slogan, it was sacred law. Monarchs were said to be God's chosen instruments, living bridges between heaven and earth. Coronations were not mere ceremonies, but cosmic rituals. In France, the holy oil used to anoint kings was said to have descended directly from heaven, carried by a dove at the baptism of Clovis. In England, kings swore oaths beneath stained glass depictions of constellations, each aligning their bloodline with divine favor. And astrologers were more than stargazers. They were royal advisors. Before battles, kings consulted them to read omens in the heavens. Before a birth, a natal chart was drawn, searching the skies for signs of strength or madness. When Henry VII defeated Richard III at Bosworth, ending the Wars of the Roses, chroniclers claimed a star blazed across the sky that night, a new hope rising with the Tudor line. Coincidence? Or carefully curated mythology to rewrite history in the language of the divine? But here's the paradox. Wisdom seeker, if kings ruled by divine right, who dared challenge them? And if the stars themselves crowned them, could rebellion ever be just? Or were these cosmic claims simply armor, spiritual bulletproofing, meant to keep the blade of justice from ever reaching the throne? The ancients once believed that kings and stars shared a fate. Both burned brightly and collapsed into darkness. So what if, in chasing the heavens, they lost their own humanity? Today we diagnose what once was feared: mental illness, genetic disease, lead poisoning. Kings weren't always cruel by design. Some were prisoners of their own bloodline. And yet, their decisions shaped nations. Can we separate the man from the madness? Or were the two always one? What would you become if no one could say no to you? If your will alone decided life and death? The crown didn't change kings. It revealed them. We return to kings and crowns not because we envy them, but because we fear becoming them. These stories ask us, what does power do to a person when there's no one left to stop them? So, wisdom seeker, if the crown chose you, what would it reveal? Mercy or madness? Would history call you king or tyrant? Which king do you believe was the most terrifying? Share your thoughts below. And remember, behind every crown is a head no heavier than yours. Don't forget to subscribe so you can find out more in our channel.